How are you doing? It's time for a podcast recommendation. But tonight I get to choose my own very favourite podcast to chat about. And we know by now there is a podcast out there for every single interest. And this one I'm going to give you this evening is a perfect example of that, because this podcast is based all around the greatest tabletop game that has ever been created, which is, of course, Subbuteo. The podcast is called Netflix, The Subbuteo Show, and it features 4 Subbuteo enthusiasts that are collectors, figure artists, and a magazine editor as well. But look, I thought, let's go big on a Thursday evening here at BBC Radio Wiltshire. Let's get 2 of the hosts on this show. They join me now. They are Callum Westwood from Westwood Table Soccer and Stuart Grant from the YouTube channel Subbuteo. Evening, boys.
All right, how you doing, mate? You all right?
We are good. Thanks to both of you for coming on the show. I'm loving the Subbuteo podcast. Look, Callum, I want to start with you. Before we talk about the show, tell us why Subbuteo is so brilliant and why it's so important.
Why Subbuteo is so brilliant? Because there's so many awesome things that they did with it. So for me, I grew up with it, really. My dad always had it. So I've been quite lucky in that respect that I grew up with it in my house. But for me, it was all about the kits, like just the amount of kits you could get for pretty much any team there ever was. It's unbelievable. That's what's so special about it. Just the kits. The kits make it brilliant.
Do you know what? You're right, because let's be fair, to play the game, you only really need a reference 1 and a reference 2, red and blue kit. You can play the game as many times as you want. But I used to spend day after day looking at those beautiful brochures with all the little kits on. I could have spent 4 hours a day looking at that as a kid.
Oh, easy, yeah. It's what the chart you're probably talking about is the 1 to 190, which is easily one of the most famous and probably most popular pieces that they actually made. And it was just a catalogue bit. Yeah. But you're right. It's got all the kits in it, like the 1 to 190, which is easily the most popular, yeah. Beautiful thing.
Stu, I'm saying that I could have looked at that catalogue for 4 hours as a kid. I'm going to be completely come clean with you. I still look at it now for 4 hours as an adult. I think you're the same.
I do. I still go back and look at that Italian 90 catalogue from 1990. Every couple of days I get it out and I flick through and I have a look. Yeah, I'll throw Italian 90 in there already. But I'll flick through it. I'll then go through and look at the 70s ones and look at the new kits. And then I'll look at the books that have come out with all the references printed on there, scroll the websites, go on forever, dreaming that they still made these kits, dreaming that they still made them in Subbuteo.
I know, you're so right. But Stu, let's move on to the podcast, which, by the way, I am loving so much that you guys have put this show together. I am buzzing about this podcast. But how did the idea come together, Stu?
So it was lockdown last year. We was all doing different things on YouTube, and then Match of the Day wasn't on because there was no football on, but they still did that sort of 4 talking heads on a screen where they talked about the top 10 goals and the best players and stuff like that. And then suddenly I had this idea pop into my head that I thought, hang on, we could do that with Subbuteo. Yeah. So I got in touch with Callum because he does his YouTube show. I got in touch with Watsy, who does his YouTube show as well. I got in touch with Stephen, who does the Subbuteo online blog, and just said, boys, do you want to get involved in this? Pitched the idea to them. Yeah. And then we all got together. We did a trial run of it, which was an absolute laugh. And since then, we've just come together. We thought we'd start off talking about the best bits of Subbuteo, so the best kits, the best accessories, the best pitches, had a few arguments along the way.
Failed miserably, by the way, on the accessories, but I don't want to bring that up on live radio.
I will be bringing that up later, Callum. Don't you worry. We're going to come on to that live on radio.
He's a very sore loser. Very sore loser.
but I mean, Callum, the reaction has been amazing, hasn't it? Straight away.
It's been really good, yeah. I mean, the podcast is kind of like, it's just something we thought, let's put it on podcast as well, because the videos, the kind of intention was to have them sort of quite short, but if you've listened to it, which you have, we never shut up. And thanks to Stu, who does all the editing, he's an absolute legend. He edits a lot of the nonsense out of it.
Yes.
So we put it on podcast for people that were maybe like driving to work or walking to work or just working from home that couldn't watch it. So we sort of podcasted it as sort of a second thought. But yeah, the podcast has been really, really popular, which is amazing.
It is. Right, I'm going to play you a clip right now of the Subbuteo show.
So hopefully at some point this year, we're going to come out of lockdown. Will the Subbuteo community continue to grow after lockdown? Or will people go back to work, go back to what they were doing before and fall off? Or will it stay? What can we do to keep it?
People have got to start meeting up physically. There's got to be some good events catering for everybody's tastes, I think.
Well, we've got Subbuteo Fest.
Once you meet people face to face, that sort of sniping online and thing goes away because you've met them, you know them.
Now, Stu, the reason I wanted to play that clip, because I think this is important, because we've seen in lockdown, haven't we, the last 12 months, prices for collectors like yourself, like me, they're going through the roof.
Crazy.
It's unbelievable.
It's gone crazy. It's so hard to buy Subbuteo now. Yeah. It's so hard.
It is.
Because you don't even know what to pay nowadays, because you look at it and it's like, 3 or 4 years ago, I never would have paid that. And you look at some teams, it's like, how is it going for hundreds of pounds? And you just think, I can't jump in with that.
No.
The price has gone crazy. But at the same time, it's great because it means more people have come back to Subbuteo and more people are getting involved in the nostalgia of it. Yeah.
And hence it needs a podcast.
Exactly that. And we was just there to fill the gap and talk the absolute rubbish that we talk. That's generally what we do. We start off with a topic about Subbuteo and it digresses. And I don't know if you've listened to the bonus episodes we put out, because generally what I cut out, I put it in the bonus episodes. I actually find them more entertaining than the main show, because some of the stuff we talk about, we was talking about cassette tapes once and wrestling figures and all sorts. You name it, we throw it in there, and it's just entertaining.
Oh, it's a great, easy listen. It's great banter. It's great fun. I mean, Callum, I'm going to ask a question as if I'm not me. I'm sat listening. I'm just cooking my dinner in the kitchen, and I'm thinking, how on earth can you talk about a little game that you put either on the floor or on the table? How can you talk about it for 1 hour, let alone week after week, episode after episode? But there is so much to it to talk about, isn't there?
There is absolutely loads, and well done for finding a clip of Stephen without myself or Stu talking over him.
It was hard. It wasn't
easy. Stephen tends to be like the sensible one in the group, but he does it. He's not loud enough. But yeah, because I mean, the main reason is there's so much of it. It started obviously sort of after the war, and it's been going on for so many years. There's so many people that come into it at different levels and like different bits. Like Stuart is pretty much like purely a collector. He just wants stuff.
Yeah.
And then you've got the guys, and he's also builder. And then you've got the guys that want to build the stadiums. And then you've got the guys that want to play their own games. There's so many different elements around the game that it's kind of got bigger than just being the game. So we can literally talk about anything. And we've all got our own angles on it. We all genuinely like different elements of Subbuteo, which is part of the reason why we argue so much.
Do you know, something I've got to say is I've had this on at work, and I've had people come and just be in the vicinity of in the area when I'm listening to it, who are not Subbuteo fans, not even football fans, but I've heard them go quiet for 10 minutes, and suddenly they go, "What are you listening to? I like this." Because I think you can listen.
Perfect. I thought it's just us that listen to it.
No,
that's brilliant though.
No, I think it's a really nice, typical podcast. It's warm and cosy as well, which is what we want in a podcast. It's when it's our interest, and I think it hits the nail on the head. Look, before you go, I've got to ask you a question. And Stuart, I'm going to come to you on this one, because one of my favourite moments of all of the Subbuteo show episodes thus far was when you were talking about the best accessory. And Callum had a bit of a meltdown towards the end of the show, which is why I'm coming to you, Stu. We were trying to work out the best accessory ever. And what happened there, Stuart? What was going on?
I'll be honest. We made a mistake, didn't we?
Clearly.
We voted the dugout as the best accessory. We had the grandstand thrown in there. We had the corner taker thrown in there. And yeah, I'll be honest, we dropped the ball big time. And I'll admit that now. But it was completely worth it just to see Callum have that paddy. And he didn't just have that paddy for that time on the camera. He had that paddy all week in our group chat as we were talking about it, and it's still fun now. Even Watsy still winds him up to this day about the dugout winning.
He started off the next episode still moaning about it, didn't you, Callum?
It did, yeah.
I mean, if I'd have known you were going to bring it up now, I wouldn't have come on. I'm still a little bit sure about it.
Yeah.
I knew at the time that what they'd said is absolutely ridiculous, and now they're all. I mean, to be fair, even Stephen has sort of said, yeah, maybe we should have changed it. But, you know, we didn't on the night. You decided to let it... I've let it go. I've let it go a little bit, but I was right. So
You weren't right. It wasn't. It definitely wasn't the corner taker. It was definitely...
the scoreboard. I put the scoreboard forward, mate.
You put the scoreboard? It wasn't the scoreboard. It was definitely the grandstand. It is the grandstand.
It is the grandstand. That's every kid's sort of dream, wasn't it? We wanted the whole stadium.
See? That red and blue grandstand. Yeah. Perfect.
Got it. Look, boys, I thank you so much for coming on and talking about the Subbuteo show. Stu, if I come to you, for someone who's listening now in Wiltshire on BBC Sounds and they've never checked this out, they like the sound of it, they used to play the game or they want to get back into the game, where are they going to listen or watch this podcast?
So you can search the podcast out on any of your podcast providers, so Apple, Spotify, just search Netflix The Subbuteo Show. or for what we think is a better experience, head over to YouTube, search Netflix The Subbuteo Show, and we'll pop up on there. But you can find us all on Twitter as well. We're all over Twitter. If you search Subbuteo on Twitter, you'll probably find us on there, and through one of our pages, you'll definitely find a link.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Callum, do you want to have the final word about the best accessory in Subbuteo ever before I go?
No, don't let him do that.
Yeah, I will, because I picked it. I'm going to pitch it again. If you're sat in your living room right now and you're thinking about Subbuteo, the brown scoreboard is the best accessory because it's functional, i.e. if you just want to play a game with your reds and your blues, you need a scoreboard. And it's also, if you're building a stadium, you need to put a scoreboard in there. It does both. It's aesthetically beautiful and it's practical. It's the best accessory, end of. I'm not having any other words about it.
There you go. I got you the final word. You owe me. You're back. I'm back in the good books, right, for giving you that moment.
You definitely are, yeah. You can come on the show if you want to.
Perfect.
You can back me
Deal.
up.
Done. Boys, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to have you. Do go and check out their show. Absolute pleasure to talk to Stu and Callum from the Subbuteo Show on Netflix. They call it Netflix with a K. It's so cool as well. It just works. Go and check it out. We'll have another podcast recommendation. Same time, same place next week.